This is where our live hit is. Liberty Memorial. Talking about Purple Heart recipients. Very pretty this morning. I have a brief window of opportunity where I can have some coffee. Very brief because I have to run down to Lee Scummit to pick up my stuff I left behind at a shoot. Very pretty morning, as I've already stated. Let's get our coffee. We're in Liberty. Just got done shooting my favorite kind of story. Of course, you know, it has something to do with history and storytelling and things like that. And while I cruise back, I thought I would do a little different angle on Liberty than I normally do. This is coming from the north part of Liberty, just north of downtown. And yes, of course, we have to wind the clock. But this gets into some of the neighborhoods here. Liberty is a very nice town. It's got a lot going for it. We got a one-way. No way! This house with the turret, which you can't see, is for sale. Whew. I got very warm. It has heated up quite nicely today. And by that I mean not so nice. Historic Liberty Jail. Now that's an oxymoron. There was a TV show called Real People that pointed that out many, many years ago. By many years ago, I mean like 1979 when it aired. And they always liked to show funny signs, and one was a sign that we always took for granted around here. It said, Liberty Jail. I think there's one in Independence too called Independence Jail. And we gotta wind the clock. I'm not completely set up for like. Oh yeah. Look at that. Remove that. Put it there for now. This is very professional. Are these ladies waiting to cross, or? I guess so. I don't know. Let's see, is this on automatic? Yeah, that's on automatic. Oh, that's not on auto. That makes a difference. That's the droid I'm looking for. The Lord knows if I'm in the right position, because somebody's decided that the setting should be that the camera should be flipped, mirrored, which is wrong. It should not be mirrored. It should be the way it is. It should be so that if you hold words up to them, you can read them and they're not backwards. Anyway, love downtown Liberty. There's the Jesse James bank museum. He, like I say, he didn't own a bank. He robbed a bank, and that's it right there. He robbed a lot of banks, but that's the first daylight bank robbery in this country's history, I guess. You know, Jesse James was what you would call an irregular in the Confederate cause. I was going to say in the Confederate Army, but I'm not sure if he was in the Army. There were a lot of what they would call irregulars, or we would now call them guerrillas, guerrilla fighters, partisans. And when the war went south, so to speak, literally and figuratively, for the Confederacy, it was reduced to a lot of people that would do things like rob Union facilities, banks. It started out, like robbing to grab weapons and things like that, and then they started robbing banks to help fund the cause, and then eventually all that money was just going into their pockets, so they just essentially became bandits. Jesse James was one of them, and there's a lot of Robin Hood legends tied to him that I don't buy into it. And it's funny that after all these years, they still can have bitter arguments, and there's still bitterness in this country over something that happened that long ago. But I won't go too far into politics, because let's just say what is old is new again. I would meet up with I never was a reenactor, but I'd meet reenactors, and oftentimes reenactors would just change uniforms if the one side or the other didn't have enough reenactors. And I met people who wore the gray uniforms that would not change uniform. They would not put the blue on. And that shows you what their sympathies were, that they were a little more than just reenacting. And that's somewhat scary to me. I'm heading straight home from my shoot, which is up here in Liberty. One of our people that works at the station, and one of our personalities, lives up this way, so this is her home turf. As is mine, but I'm not a lifer. I wasn't raised here. I didn't go to school here or anything. I actually was raised all over the country, and I went to school in Fort Osage, where I graduated high school in Independence. Which, that's funny to say, because I don't think Fort Osage is actually in Independence, Missouri, but it has an Independence address, or at least it used to on the postmark, if I remember right. But it's actually just over the line into the county. And the neighborhood we lived in was just over the line in the county. We never actually lived in Independence. Salem East is the neighborhood we lived in. But yeah, don't get me started on a historic subject. My mouth would runneth over. The boorishness would not cease. As many people would look at my nickname, my tagline in my blog, and go, "Why do you call yourself boorish?" Well, trust me, there's some truth to it, and I acknowledge my bad tendencies. I should drink this water this kind person gave me. Because I was actually working in the heat. Fine. I'm good. I'm good thing to look at my monitor every once in a while to see that it's still going. But you know what? Speaking of Boris, I'm just rambling on. We won on the clock. We've seen the good parts of liberty. So I will wrap this here. Yep. Before I go home, I need to do my grocery shopping at Menards.